Hello there, my name is Hido and welcome to the Pantheon, where it's coming up to my 200th episode. So I'm going to be looking back at some of my favourite commander decks that I've ever built and played. And today we're having a look at a god. It's Athreos, god of passage, not the passage, as you know, I used to think it was the passage, but it's not, it's just a global passage that he's sort of godly of. It's not one in specific. 3 mana for a 5/4 indestructible god. As long as your devotion to white and black is less than 7, Athreos isn't a creature. And whenever another creature you control dies, return it to your hand unless target opponent pays 3 life. I really like this. You can manipulate your opponents, you know, make some deals, get some like nice removal back, and it helps sort of mediate the table. You can really control people, but while you're controlling someone else, you know, maybe destroying their creatures over and over again, you're going to slowly take control. Really love this deck. Do you know what else I love? My subscribers. Hey, come and join me. As I said, we're getting up to the 200th episode, so come and join me for many hundreds more. Let's say 2,000 then? I don't know. Maybe eventually there will be 2,000, so let's go onwards and have a look at my number 5 selection. And at number 5, we've got Restoration Specialist. Now this little guy is, well, by all accounts, not that good, or you wouldn't specifically think it was that good. But the theme of this deck isn't just about creatures dying, it's about artifacts and enchantments and reanimating all of those things. And this card is wonderful. 2 mana, 2/1 dwarf artificer, pay a white, sacrifice Restoration Specialist, so, you know, if your opponents are on your side, you can get it back to your hand, or, you know, you're going to drain someone for 3 life. Return up to 1 target artifact card, and up to 1 target enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand. So a nice bit of card advantage. You could potentially, for 1 white, be sacrificing this and getting 3 cards back, an enchantment, an artifact, and also this guy back to your hand. So much value spilling out of everywhere. I love it, and the artwork, you know, tinkering with a mechanical bird. Ooh, very Athreos in my opinion. Then to go along with it, we've got Mind Stone, and my ramp package really centers around sacrificing artifacts so we can get them into the graveyard, bring them back. Oh, yes, we don't get an Athreos trigger, but it just fits in with the deck. So Mind Stone, 2 mana for an artifact, taps for a colorless. Oof. 1 mana, tap, sacrifice it, draw a card. So with something like Restoration Specialist, we can keep recurring it, keep drawing cards. So much value to be had. And this card is just all the way brilliant. Then another great way of recurring things is Cavalier of Dawn. 5 mana, 4/6 Elemental Knight with Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. Its control creates a 3/3 colors golem artifact creature token. When it dies, return target artifact or enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand. Really nice for rebuying whatever we've been sacrificing or maybe milling into our graveyard. And that's a beautiful bit of destruction, which goes perfectly with Animate Dead. So this is a 2 mana wall of text, but here we go. Enchantment Aura, enchant creature in a graveyard. When it enters the battlefield, if it's on the battlefield, it loses enchant creature card in a graveyard and gains enchant creature put into the battlefield with Animate Dead. Return the enchanted creature card from your battlefield under your control and attach Animate Dead to it. When Animate Dead leaves the battlefield, that creature's control sacrifices it. Enchanted creature gets -1 -0. Dear God, we got through it. So, why do I like this so much? Especially with the Cavalier of Dawn. So, if you've got Cavalier of Dawn in your graveyard, well, with Reanimate Dead, you can bring back the Cavalier of Dawn. Then, Cavalier of Dawn can target the Animate Dead to destroy it, getting as a 3/3 golem. And Animate Dead will go to the graveyard. We sacrifice the Cavalier, which triggers the Cavalier to return, guess what? The Animate Dead to our hand. So we can loop this over and over and over again and build up a nice board. And, you know, if we, you know, sacrifice this guy, well, our opponents could just give it back to our hand. And then when it's just so much recursion and so good. I've not got it listed here, but there's a card called Necromancy. It's a 3 mana version of Animate Dead, except you can cast it at instant speed and then sacrifice it at the end of turn. So what you can do with Cavalier of Dawn and Animate Dead for 3 mana, and necromancy is over and over again. You can just keep recurring that, keep making 3/3 blockers. It's wonderful. Or it's just a death, kill spell. God, my words are escaping me. It's a kill spell whenever you want it at instant speed. I love it. It's such a cool interaction. And that's what this deck is to me. So there's a nice selection for you. Just sort of artifact and enchantment little package. Then in at number 4, what do we have? We've got Trove Warden. Again, this works with all the things we're going to be putting into the graveyard and recurring them, because there's a theme of 3 mana cost or less. So most of the cards you just saw were 3 mana cost or less, and a lot of the deck that I built around is. So Trove Warden, 4 mana. Not a good start to the 3 CMC sort of tribal, but it's a 3/4 with Vigilance, Cat Beast. Landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, exile target permanent card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard. When Trove Warden dies, put each permanent card exiled with it onto the battlefield under your control of that card's owner. Cheating things into play is phenomenal, and we've got quite a few sacrifice outlets in it. And you know, if your opponents don't have the life or they just like you, you could be getting this back to your hand so you can redeploy it and do it all over again. And to go with all the landfall triggers, let's have a Sun Titan, because Sun Titan can recur anything with CMC 3 or greater, less. Good God, imagine if it was 3 or greater. What the hell? But, I mean, that'd probably they'd print that for 7 mana these days and it'd be in mono blue. But this is fantastic in white. 6 mana, 6/6 Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, you may return target permanent card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So I mentioned lands. If you're playing fetch lands, Sun Titan and Trove Warden are incredible with those cards. Just being able to sacrifice them and get another land, another landfall trigger, and then Sun Titan can attack, get it back. Trove Warden, that's 2 land drop triggers. Fantastic. Then we've got Ascent of the Worthy, which works fantastically with both of these cards. 3 mana for a Saga. Choose a creature you control. Until your next turn, all damage that would be dealt to that creature you control is dealt to that creature instead. So I missed an S off in the middle there. So basically you just choose one target and then all damage that would be dealt to your other creatures is dealt to that. Guess what? If Athreos is a creature, it's indestructible. So if we're going to Scent the Worthy, target Athreos, well, all the damage dealt to our creatures, you know, from board wipes or combat, is going to be dealt to Athreos, who's indestructible and will never die. So you just have to keep your devotion up. Love it. And you get 2 chapters of that, and then return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a flying counter on it. That creature is an Angel Warrior in addition to its other types. And it's 3 CMC. Well, with Sun Titan, we can keep recurring it, because after the 3rd chapter, it goes to the graveyard, goes off, and then we can just bring it back, keep targeting our commander. So good. So much value contained in this uncommon. Then we've got Savina's Reclamation, another wonderful... I see this as a sort of ramp card, to be honest with you. 3 mana for a sorcery. Return target permanent card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. If the spell was cast from a graveyard, you may copy that spell and you may choose new targets for that copy. Flashback for 5. So if you flash it back, you get 2 things back. Really, really awesome. And getting lands back is phenomenal. Silent Clearing is one of the best examples. It's a land, tap, pay 1 life, add either a white or a black, but then you can pay a colorless, a generic, and tap and sacrifice it to draw a card. And then with any one of these cards that we've been talking about, you could reclaim it and bring it back to the battlefield because it's all a permanent. It doesn't matter, it doesn't say non-land permanent. This is amazing and just so much value. You can keep drawing through your deck, or if you just mill this, get a land back and ramp yourself. Then Brought Back is one of the best cards in this deck. 2 white for an instant. Choose up to 2 target permanent cards in your graveyard that will put there from the battlefield this turn. Returns to the battlefield tapped. Now, the dream is turn 1, fetch land. Turn 2, fetch land. Sacrifice them both. Go and get a shock land and, I don't know, another dual land. Or just a plains. Then cast this at instant speed. And you get 2 lands straight back onto the battlefield. My God, mono white ramp. I love this card and it works so perfectly with things like Fabled Passage. Oh, it's almost like I planned this out. This is a fetch land. Sacrifice Fabled Passage. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Then, if you control 4 or more lands, untap that land. So, the situation I just spoke about, we couldn't use this, but if you're playing big bucks for the big fetch lands, they work fantastically. This works just as well on a nice little budget though. So, really, really cool. So, there's my sort of reanimate land and sort of ramp package. It all couples together, which is just lovely. I love it. And that brings me on to number 3. You know, number 3, we've got Kuon. I don't know how you say that. Ogre Ascendant. Triple black. At the end of turn, if 3 or more creatures were put into graveyards from play this turn, flip Kuon. I don't know. Ogre Ascendant. It's a 2/4 legendary creature. I've not built into this thing a way to turn them upside down, but you'll have to trust me here. Kuon's Essence. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature. So we can really, really control the board with that. And our creatures that we're going to sacrifice, not the end of the world, because maybe we'll get them back to our hand, or we're going to tax our opponents for 3 life. Really, really awesome card. And, you know, it's 3 devotion. I love it. It's great. Then Martyr's Bond is a very similar sort of effect. We really want to be taxing our opponents. 6 mana for enchantment. Whenever it or another non-land opponent you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices an opponent that shares a card type with it. So a lot of our creatures can sacrifice themselves, but as I've talked about before, we've got a lot of artifact, maybe ramp things, Mind Stone that can sacrifice itself, enchantments, possibly you want to go down that route. Awesome card, really controls the board. 6 mana is a lot, but more than worth it. Then, oh, I love it. Sheoldred Whispering One. Haha! Did you get it? Swamp Walk, it's a Praetor, and at the beginning of your upkeep, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature. So we're going to get advantage, get all of our cool creatures back, and they're going to be crippled and devastated. Amazing, amazing card. And if we've got something like Fleshbag Marauder to bring back, it's even better. Dictate of Erebos is a 5-mana enchantment with flash. Whenever a creature controlled dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. Very, very similar to Martyr's Bond, except it's just creatures. So is it good? Yes, it's incredible. It has flash. So you can just flash it in. Everyone's going to be losing everything they've ever worked for. I love it to pieces. Then, speak of the fat tub of lard and he shall appear. Fleshbag Marauder. 3 mana, 3/1 zombie warrior. There are much better versions of this card, but look at that artwork. Oh my god, I love it. So when it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature. So generally you're going to sacrifice the Fleshbag itself, and then, well, you can make a deal with an opponent who has no creatures and say, hey, see them over there? They've got like 6 creatures. Give it me back and I'll cast it again, and cast it again, and cast it again, and cast it again. Oh look, no one's got any creatures apart from me. It's wonderful. It's so, so good. And look at that artwork. Oh my god. It's utterly hideous. It's so, so, so good. I love it. Then Dawn of the Dead, one of my favourite enchantments because it has 3 devotion. Ooh. No, there's a lot of very good things about this card. Enchantment at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life. Okay, that isn't one. But it gets better, I swear. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to play. That creature gains haste until end of turn. Remove it from the game at end of turn. Now, what you might have noticed is it doesn't have anything after that. Usually, it says if it would leave play, exile it. This, if it say it was a Fleshbag Marauder that we brought back, it comes in our upkeep, we sacrifice it, it will go back to the graveyard. So the next turn, we can do it again, and do it again, and do it again. Fantastic, and such a wonderful sort of value engine. This card is brilliant. The artwork's great. I've got a foil one in the deck. It looks so good with all the sort of bubbling muck around it. Great card. Great card. Then finally, we got Debtor's Knell, a very similar version of this card. 7 mana for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So if we're controlling all of our opponent's plays and they're sacrificing all the creatures they'd want to play, well, with this, we can get their creatures back. Ooh, fantastic. Really, really great card. And this is a nice sort of enchantment-themed package where we're reanimating, making people sacrifice things, and just controlling the board that way. And your opponents will be miserable, which is why I like it so much. And that takes me on to number 2. And at number 2, we've got Tombstone Stairwell, yet another enchantment. But this is an enchant world, and I adore this card. I really, really do. 4 mana for an enchant world with cumulative upkeep. So first upkeep, you have to pay 2 mana, then 4 mana, then 6, each progressive upkeep. So it gets pretty hard to keep this on the field, but having it for 1 turn can be enough. During each upkeep, each player puts onto play a Tombspawn token for each summon card in their graveyard. Yeah, old wording, but basically each creature card in your graveyard, and treat those tokens as 2/2 black creatures. They're unaffected by summoning sickness, so they have haste. They count as zombies, so they've been errated to just be zombies. I think they're called Tombspawn though. And at the end of turn, or if Tombstone Stairwell leaves play, bury all these tokens. Now, you get them, not just us, everyone gets them each turn. So each turn, you're creating them, then destroying them, creating them, then destroying them, which is phenomenal. That's so many death triggers, and yes, they're tokens, so that doesn't trigger Athreos, but we're playing a sort of death trigger deck, so we're going to have things that care about that. But the awesome thing is, what about if we made those creatures indestructible? Because this enchantment is destroying them. So if they're indestructible, we get to keep our tokens. Eldrazi Monument is one of the best ways of doing this. 5 mana for an artifact. Creature control get the swamp one, and are flying and indestructible. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. If you can't, sacrifice Eldrazi Monument. So with Tombstone Stairwell on the field, say we have like 5 creatures in our graveyards. First turn, we get 5 creatures. Then it goes to destroy them with but thanks to Eldrazi Monument, it can't. So we go to the next upkeep and we get another 5. So we've got 10. And it just keeps growing and growing and growing. I love it. It's so, so cool and such a great way to end the game. Then, Avacyn Angel of Hope is another way of doing this. 8 mana for an 8/8 Flying Vigilance Indestructible with 3 Devotion. Other opponents you control have Indestructible. So all of our tokens have Indestructible. Our Tombstone Stairwell has Indestructible. Amazing. Our commander has double Indestructible. By God, no one will ever destroy him. But this is fantastic and just a great card overall. It's big battle cruiser magic. I love it to pieces. Then finally, if we don't have one of these ways to make everything indestructible, Blood Artist will just end the game. 2 mana for a 0/1. Whenever it or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So each end step, we're destroying all the tokens, not just ours, but all of our opponents that they might have made. So it could be 20 creatures each turn that are dying. That's 20 Blood Artist triggers. Amazing. It's so, so good and just, it just makes me so excited to play the deck. I love it. And that brings me on to number 1. So there's one way of winning the game, and this is another. Oh yes, Weaponcraft Enthusiast. 3 mana for a 0/1 Aetherborn Artificer. Not sounding great, but it's Fabricate 2. So when this creature enters the battlefield, either put 2 1/1 counters on it, or create 2 1/1 color servo artifact creature tokens. I have never once chosen that first option. I can tell you that right now. The second one, where you get 2 1/1s, is so good. Just bodies on the board. Yes, they're tokens, so okay, it doesn't trigger Athreos. But being able to return Weaponcraft Enthusiast, make friends with someone, they return it back. That's another 2 1/1s. Phenomenal. Such a powerful play, especially if you've got a sacrifice out like Ashnod's Altar. 3 mana for an artifact, sacrifice a creature, add double colours to your mana pool. So, hidden in this card is 6 mana. 3 mana, we can get to 6. A ridiculous boost in the amount of mana that you have. Then, if we're playing something like this, let's play one of my favourite cards, Marionette Master, which is just the daddy version of Weaponcraft Enthusiast. 6 mana, 1/3 Human Artificer, Fabricate 3. So you either get 3 1/1s or 3 counters. There is actually a reason to get the counters though here. Whenever an artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, Target opponent loses life equals a Marionette Master's power. So if we get the 1/1s, it's going to be 1 power because it's a 1/3. But every time we sacrifice like a Mind Stone or something like that, if we've got the counters on this card, it's going to deal 4 to an opponent, which is alright. But what about if we had Nim Deathmantle? So this is a 2-mana equipment where creature gets +2/+2, has Intimidate, and is a black zombie. Whenever a non-token creature is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, you may pay 4 generic. If you do, return that card to the battlefield and attach Nim Deathmantle to it. Equip for 4. So, why is this so good? Well, with Ashenod's Altar, and one of these cards that produces 2 tokens or more, we can make 3 tokens here, sacrifice those 3 tokens to make 6 mana, and ping our opponents for 1 each. Ooh. Then we can use 4 of that mana to return the Marionette Master to the field. So we then get another trigger, and we're going to make 3 more 1/1s, and we've got 2 mana spare. So this has the possibility of making infinite mana, and if you've got Marionette Master, you just kill your opponents. Hooray. And Marionette Master, Weaponcraft Enthusiast just comes out so early, it gums up the board with its bodies, and it's a potential way of winning the game with these cards. And these cards just fit so well into the deck, even if you're not comboing. Brilliant. I love it. It's such a cool way of winning. I love it. Great little collection of cards. Weaponcraft Enthusiast, I don't know if it's the pose that he's in, but he just looks so, like, 2013 cool. You know, like, I don't know how else to describe it, but that's how that card makes me feel. And it would make me feel really good if you'd subscribe. I love this deck, so I've enjoyed talking about it, and hopefully these are giving you some ideas of sort of directions you could take your deck in. Please subscribe, and we're going to make lots more of these. So thanks for watching. Bye.